Hey
Hello,
everyone,
everyone. Yeah,
go right ahead.
thanks, CJ. Yeah, okay, no, that was perfect, just like welcoming together. So, as you might guess, we have CJ today, and he's the head of front end engineering in Vectara. And he's the one who is going to tell you today about the tools for user interface for building AI apps. You're going to find a lot of useful information there. This is an exciting workshop for 1 hour, so please stay tuned. Passing the mic to CJ, and yeah, have fun learning and creating something new.
Thank you. So, as mentioned, I'm CJ. I'm head of front-end engineering and also interim head of design at Vectara. And I'm also a super nerd when it comes to UI and user experience. So you're all going to build some really great Gen AI apps with Vectara. And what I'd like to do is share some tools that I've helped build that will help you build Vectara apps and get these UIs in front of your users more quickly. So we all have varying levels of experience building user interfaces. Some of you may be JavaScript wizards. Some of you might be hearing the term JavaScript for the first time today. I'm going to go through a range of tools that have varying degrees of complexity, and hopefully you'll find something that looks like a good fit for you. So now I'm going to do something that's probably a terrible idea. I'm going to share my screen, and we're all going to do some live coding together. Best case scenario, everything goes flawlessly, and you learn a few things. Worst case scenario, I make a bunch of typos, things don't work, and you'll have a good laugh at my expense. So either way, it's gonna be a good time. Let's go. I'm gonna share my screen now. Find that button. All right, here we go. Okay, so you all see my screen now. First, what we need to do, of course, is get some data uh, into our corpus, into Vectara. So let's see here. Let's create a corpus. Click that button. We'll make it a chat user experience. Let's call it dinos, because the data I have is all about dinosaurs. Cool. Now let's get this data in. What I did is actually download a bunch of files from Wikipedia. I saved a bunch of pages. And so I'm going to drag these HTML files right into the UI, and we'll see them upload. So there they go. And once this data is uploaded, we'll just do a quick test to make sure we can query the data and ask questions about it. And then we'll start building some stuff. And there we go. Cool. So let's ask a question real quick. Let's ask, um, what are dinosaurs? Excellent. Um, did they have big appetites? Oh, sure. Thanks for pointing it out. Cool. So hopefully that's a little bit easier to read. Let me zoom back out with one level. So cool. It looks like I'm able to ask questions and have a conversation with it. This question, did they, refers back to dinosaurs. It knows that in its answer. So cool. Looks like the data is in there and queryable. The next thing we're going to do before we build the UI is add an API key. The API key will be used to configure our applications to send requests to our data. So I'll click that Create API Key button. I'll call it Dinos again. And what we're going to do is configure it so that's enabled to query, but not index. And that's sort of a security measure. We want to make sure that if this API key gets into the hands of someone we don't want to have it, then they'll only be able to retrieve data. They won't be able to actually index it and mess our data up. Okay, cool. So it's configured to access our Dinos corpus. Excellent. So we now have the API key. So I'll start with the simplest possible way to integrate Vectara with your UI, and then I'll work my way progressively up to more complex options. So the simplest option is to use our JS widgets. And these are really basic drop-in JS widgets. Here's the open source repository. You can check it on GitHub. And we have two available. One called JS Search for searching data. The other is called JS Chatbot for creating a chatbot with your data. So I have a sample code base I've set up where we can try these things out. It's here in this directory. It's just a simple index.html file that we'll edit. Let's just take a look at the repo real quick and follow these directions. Just drink some water. Getting parched. So the first thing we need to do is take the script tag and get it into our HTML page. Let me just copy that. Go over to our code. As you can see, really basic page, title, text. And I'm going to paste the script tag I've copied into the head. The next step is going to be to create a div element, which is where the search button, or sorry, the search input is going to get rendered. And just to give you a really quick preview, actually, let's take a look at this demo. We have a documentation page here that shows you how it works. This is what it's going to look like. Okay, so that div element, the docs mentioned, that's where this is going to get mounted. So I have that copied. Put this into our HTML here. There's one more step left. So at the bottom of the website, in the body tag, we need to copy this and paste it in there. Let's put it right there. So let's look through this. What have we done? We have our script imported at the top, we have a div, and we have another script tag at the bottom that initializes the search. We're just going to configure this real quick. So the first thing here is wrapper ID. This refers to the div. As you can see, it's already there. Cool. Don't need to do anything there. We will need our customer ID, our corpus ID, and our API key. And these last three things are optional, so I'm just going to delete them to keep things simple. So let's get these values in here. Let's do a really neat trick. When we go back to Vectara, if you go to the API key, click this little arrow, you actually copy everything really quickly. So you get the API key, corpus ID, and customer ID all with one click. So now if I paste it, I can just copy and paste these values over to where they need to be. Oops. Get the API key, put that right there. Corpus ID is 3, put that there. And customer ID there. Cool. So we have everything we need. Now let's save this file and load it up over here. And there we have our search button or search input. I can click it, start searching for dinos. Let's see, let's search for Allosaurus. That's my favorite dinosaur. Cool, and we get a bunch of results here. All linking, of course, to the same page. If I do something a little more varied, like maybe just dinosaur in general, I should get more results. I just want to contrast this real quick with the demo that I showed earlier. So this is actually powered by the Vectara docs or searching the Vectara docs. So if I search for something like just, what is Vectara? I get back a bunch of links. The reason is you have links in these search results, but not in the one that we're doing here. It's because I've uploaded just basic HTML files. To get these links, you actually need to upload documents that are structured according to Vectara's document structure, which enables you to define metadata. One example of metadata is a URL. So once you have that URL available, you get links automatically populated in your search results. Absent that URL metadata, with HTML pages, for example, you just get text search results. Cool. So that's all working well. Let's move on to creating a chatbot. So as I mentioned, JS Chatbot is the other widget we have available. Let's take a look at that demo real quick. So here it is. In this demo, we can just type in what is Vectara. We'll see what that user experience looks like. We'll get an answer back. You have references here. And you can collapse this if you want this little unobtrusive button. That's fun. So let's create that. Similar process. We have copy the script tag, drop it into our head. I'll also replace the search one. This chatbot there, cool. This one again has a ID, a div with the ID that used to identify it. So this one says Vectara chatbot element. I'll just copy paste that over here. And let's get that script tag. So copy that, paste it here. And a lot of things translate over. Customer ID, for example, drop that in there. Corpus ID, 3, I don't need to paste that, I can type that. Delete that second corpus. You can query and chat across corpora. That's why it supports multiple corpus IDs there. But in our case, of course, we only have the one corpus. And let's bring over this API key. Cool. Everything else is optional. So let's delete that for now. Let's delete this old script tag and save it. And now we should have a chatbot experience when we refresh our sample page here. Oh, cool. There's that button. I'll click it. And let's just do a little test here. What is an Allosaurus? Allosaurus is a large theropod dinosaur. Cool. Great response. Let's ask, where did it live? And just make sure that that context is retained so that you know that it is referring to Allosaurus. And yep, there you go. It works. Allosaurus lived in North America's Morrison Formation. Cool. All right, so now we have seen how these two widgets work. We have JS Search and JS Chatbot. Let's move on to some more intermediate options. Those were really simple. Let's get a little bit more complex. So for these components, we actually have React versions of these components. They're called, unsurprisingly, React Chatbot and React Search. And these also have their own open source repos. So you can look at the source code and read the documentation, great stuff like that. For those of you who are unfamiliar with React, React is a very popular JavaScript framework used for building UIs. If you're going to build a UI, React is a great choice. And the big difference between the widgets I showed you and the React components is that with these React components, you're going to write a lot more code than just copying and pasting things in. So let's see what that looks like. I have created a sample app called React Components here. I created this with a generator called Create React App. It's a very popular generator that just creates a bunch of boilerplate code for creating an app. Now let's look inside the source code here. Okay, cool. So this looks very similar, right? This looks sort of like HTML, but it's actually called JavaScript JSX. It's a special syntax for React for defining how a page will be rendered. And we can run this locally and see how it looks. Do that real quick. So I'm in that directory. Let's do npm run start. And this will kick off the process that has the app running locally. Cool. So pretty basic, pretty bare bones. Let's integrate a search experience into this using React Search. How do we do that? Well, the first step is to install the dependency. So we can just copy this command, go back here, open a new tab. I want to bump this up for everybody. Whoops, where'd it go? There we go. And let's just change directory into our application directory. And I'll paste that command, run npm install for that dependency. And cool, we have it installed locally. Now, we go back to the source, we need to do two things here. We need to import it, and then we need to actually render it in our UI. So let's copy these things over, import this, put at the top of our file. Cool, so we now have React Search, and we can render this component now, like so. Cool. Now, as before, we do need to configure this with customer ID, corpus ID, and API key. So let's get those things. Let's just go through, let's use the UI. Use this very handy dandy copy all button. Go back to our code and paste things where they belong. There's API key, corpus ID 3, customer ID. And we'll delete these optional things. Save. And now, there we go. We have our search component embedded in our page and being rendered. We'll click that to show it works. And as before, we have search results. And this is all now running within a React app. Similarly, we'll do the React chatbot works the same kind of way. We'll speed through this one a little more quickly, so I'm pretty sure you understand the pattern by now. But as before, you install the dependency. And then import and render the component. Delete these optional things here. Save. And we should see our chatbot on the same page. What is a stegosaurus? Let's mix it up. Oops. Stegosaurus. Cool. There we go. So we have chat and search both working on the same page. Pretty cool. And that's how we use our React components to support a React code base to generate these kinds of user experiences. But remember, this is specifically for React. So if you're not using React, use some other tool like the JS widgets I shared earlier. So the next tool I'm going to go through is called Create UI. And this one's a little bit more advanced. What it does is it provides the fastest way to generate an entire React code base from the ground up. So let me show you what that means. So all you really need to do to run this is this one command, and this one command will generate an entire code base for you. So let's see here. Let's just go into the one directory up, paste this command. And now, after it installs a couple of dependencies, you are prompted to generate a code base and ask you some questions to ask you, what kind of code base do you want, how to configure it. So let's create a chat UI code base. Hit enter there. I will use my own data, or I will use the Victoria doc sample data. For this, we're going to use our own data. What do you want to name the application? Let's just call it Create Dinos. What's the customer ID? I'm going to copy that over. The corpus ID, I think it's 3. And the API key. Let's just get that here and paste it in. Do we want sample questions? Let's just say no to that one. And now we have a code base generated locally. I can show you in Finder. Here's the create dynos code base. In the side, there's this directory. It's all sitting there. We can look at it inside of our editor as well. Here it is. You have access to all this source code. It's all there, there's tons of stuff. And we can get it running locally by running this command that got rendered to our terminal. Let's copy that, paste it here. What it will do, it will change directory into the new create dynos directory, install all the dependencies, and then get it running locally for you. This will take a little bit of time because there's a lot of dependencies, but hopefully not too long. But while it does that, let me just take you through a tour through the code base itself. Oh, cool. We saw node modules show up there. So those are our dependencies that got installed. We have all the source code. Of course, here's the application file. Oop, sorry, the tour got cut short. And the dependencies got installed and now it's running locally. So here we have our UI. This is a little minor bug. This little prompt is still showing up, even though I said, we don't want any example questions. So we have to fix that. Normally, if we did add example questions, they'd be added here as buttons. Things like, what's an Allosaurus, for example? That would be a good example question. But we don't have any. So I'm just gonna type that in manually. What is an Allosaurus? Now I have that response. Cool. I don't know what kind of answer it's gonna give me here, but I'm gonna say like, could it eat a stegosaurus? Probably gonna say it doesn't know. Let's see. Oh, cool. Well, it tries to answer the question and it says, yeah, probably could eat a stegosaurus. Excellent. So there we have our chat app. Let's go back to that code base. So we have access to all of the code here. There's no, dependency on some React chatbot component. You can actually go into the code that defines the chat view, and you can learn how this works. You can edit it. You can do whatever you want to it. For example, let's say I want to, I don't know, make something blue, like make these questions blue. What is an alpha? So it's black right now. I want it to be blue. I would just find the CSS that defines that, and I think that's here. Chat message, and I'll make this right now. It's this variable color text. I'll just make it blue. I'll make the font size something crazy like 48 pixels, just so we can really see it. And now there you go. I've just edited this files. I can also edit the source code itself, change the way it appears, change its order, do whatever I want with it, really. I can even copy and paste this into another app and build on top of it. The whole point of Create UI is that you have full control over the entire code base. Of course, the challenge with that is that it also, kind of requires you to have a certain level of comfort and familiarity with working in React and working in code. So that's where the complexity comes into play. I just want to show you that Create UI is not limited to just chat. I think you may have seen, but when I ran that command, Create UI, I was prompted to do a few other options. I could also choose semantic search, summarized semantic search, or question and answer. And there's some descriptions here of what those are, but if you want to know what they look like and how they behave, we do have this great demos page. Here on the GitHub repo, click that link. You can see screenshots of what they look like, and you can also click and try out the demo of how it works. Here are those example questions I suggested, or I mentioned to you. So like, what's hybrid search, for example? I can click that and see what a summarized semantic search, summarized semantic search UI looks like. Excuse me. So that's that. Likewise, you can also look at, let's see, question answer UI. That's the last option there. So those are all the code bases you can create with Create UI. Now, believe it or not, there is one more advanced option or a set of tools that are even more advanced. You want even more control over your application. Of course, as I mentioned, there is a commensurate level of complexity involved. So these may not be for everyone, but they are for the folks who love working with the code base. They're expert level developers. Have no problem building your own JavaScript from the ground up. And you want control over how search results and chat user experiences show up and appear to users, but you don't want to deal with all the complexity of writing your own requests to the API, for example, and dealing with the responses and managing all that state under the hood. So let's say you want to build a chat app from the ground up. That's our example. And you want to control how the chat looks. You don't even want to use Create UI for this. You want to just have complete control over that. And at the same time, you don't want to deal with that state. So we have some options for you. In this case, we have what's called the use chat hook. So let's take a look at what that is. That's actually back in our React chatbot repo. And if you have installed this dependency, you have access to this hook, this use chat hook. And here's what it looks like here. You install React chatbot, you have access to it. Let's go back to our React chat code base and try this out. Let's see. So here is that code base. Actually, here's a new code base. Let's just do that. Whole new code base. Let's run this locally. Well, actually, we can't run it locally yet. It's kind of broken, but that's deliberate. So here's what it would look like with pre-chat hook. So we have a message that we want to send in our request, in our chat request. We know we want to sort of we want to keep track of the message that we've sent. We want to keep track of. We want to actually send the message. We want to keep track of the history of the messages we sent so far, because that's what a chat is. It's a series of messages and answers. And we want to render them as format where we go through the history, we render a question, and then we render an answer below it. And here's an input where we expect users to type in their question or their message, and we're going to set the message. And when they click a send button here, that's when the message is going to get sent. So let's go through this whole process. First of all, let's just get into this directory in our terminal. And again, let's install this dependency. Cool. Now let's copy this over. We import use chat. Oh, we already have it in there. So we import use chat from the React chatbot dependency. And then let's just lift this up here. We have access to a bunch of good stuff. We have access to send message, message history, a bunch of other states, is loading, is streaming, has error, stuff like that. We're not going to consume this stuff for this demo, but you do have access to a lot of other goodies that you normally would have to manage yourself. But with this hook, it's all made available to you automatically. Now let's configure this. We will grab it from the UI. And there's our API key. Corpus ID is 3. Customer ID. And let's see, do we have any syntax errors here? Oh, no, it looks like now we have access to the message history. We're iterating through all the messages and rendering questions and answers. You still have your input here, you still have your button here, and everything looks like it's working correctly or will work correctly. Let's run it and see what happens. Cool. So here's our demo of use chat. Let's just type this in. This doesn't look as pretty as before, but let's just see what happens here. What are dinosaurs? We'll click send. And I don't have any spinners or anything showing you that loading state, but as I showed you before, if you do want to show a spinner while a request is outstanding, you do have access to things like it's loading, stuff like that. So you can show more progress or in progress feedback to your users. Cool. So I got that question. I have the answer. It seems to be working correctly. Did they eat a lot with that fat? Let's see if chat really works. Excellent. So yes, it knows that they refers to the dinosaurs. Looks like the conversational context is being maintained. We have access to all that good stuff. So that's use chat. We also have another hook called use search. This is, of course, available in the React search repo. And let's see, where to go. Yeah, there it is. So very similarly, it works just like use chat. You can install the dependency, but in this case, it's React search dependency. You import that that hook, and you can consume it locally very similarly. But in this case, it's a lot simpler. You're just fetching search results, so you have fewer things to have to deal with. Now, I saved the most complex option for last. This is the stream query client. So let's check this one out. This is a low-level library. It's the most complex option. It's for issuing streaming query requests to Vectara. And what's cool about streaming is that when you issue that request, you want to get back some kind of response as quickly as possible. And streaming enables you to show the actual message, the response, being sort of typed out almost on the screen as you get back what we call chunks, like bits of the response as they're generated by Vectara. So unlike the hooks I showed you, this client makes no assumptions about using React or anything. It just works in JavaScript. It'll just work just fine. If you're using TypeScript, which is a typed version of JavaScript, it supports that as well. So sorry, I have this scratch in my throat. It's killing me. So let me show you how easy it is to use Stream Query Client to make requests to Vectara's APIs, and you can use it to make any kind of UI, whether it's search, summarization, or chat. It works with all of them. So I'll just show you this demo app where I want to create a question and answer UI, and I'll use that as my demo. So let's do that. Okay, Stream Query Client. Here's our app. Excellent. So what we're going to do here is, well, just run and just take a look. Okay, pretty bare bones. Looks a lot like the other UIs I've showed so far. But what we're going to do is make it so that users can type in a question, hit send, and get an answer back from Vectara. So let's go through the steps to bring this UI to life with Stream Query Client. First step is to install the dependency, of course. That's copied. Let's go back to our UI here and change into the correct directory. Paste that command. Oh, where'd it go? Get the dependency installed. And then, of course, we're going to go back to copying and pasting code. Let's copy this code example here from the docs, bring it over into our own code base here. We'll put it up top first. I'll move things around. So we have our import, where we import the dependencies. Putting it right there. And then we have this send query function, which we're going to use. We're going to join it here. So we have this sort of empty send query placeholder. We'll just replace that with what we have. And now we need to do some customization, of course. We will bring over our API key and customer ID and all that good stuff. And we're gonna configure this with a few more things. So for the query value, we actually want to query, populate this with a value of whatever question the person has typed in. So put question there. For summary num results, we can keep that at 5. So it's going to summarize, or yeah, it's going to summarize 5, create a summary using 5 results from search results. And we'll use English as the language. And then when we get an update here, we actually want to show this to the user somehow. So we'll actually set the response here. Actually, we can just copy and paste it over the console log. Cool. All right. Let's see, what is it complaining about? Ah, right. So we'll actually make this an empty string if it's null. And then the last thing we need to do is actually configure the button here to send the query. Okay, cool. It looks like it's already sending the query. So when you click send, we'll set the answer to empty and send the query of whatever you've typed in. So let's see if this works. What are dinosaurs? Ah, there we go. So the streaming result is coming back. That client made it super easy to consume this streamed result. Let's change this to what, how big was Allosaurus? And again, we have our new answer streamed back. So that shows you how simple it is to use, to use this this client to generate a streaming UI, and that's the whole point. And I did show it in React, but you can use it in any code base whatsoever. It doesn't have to be React. So that's it. That takes us through the whole gamut of tools we've built to help you use Vectara and get them to the hands of your users more quickly. I'll share links to all these tools in Discord. Hold on, let me just take off screen share so you can see me more clearly. Cool. So yeah, I'll share links to all these in Discord so you can consume them. Please feel free to ask questions on Discord or even use GitHub, file some issues if you want. Please give them a shot and share feedback if you have it. Thank you so much.